warriors had fought valiantly but ultimately fell to the overwhelming numbers of the Persian army. The path to southern Greece was wide open, and Athens lay directly in the Persians' path. Xerxes, confident in his superiority, marched into Athens and burned it to the ground. The Athenians, however, had already evacuated the city under the leadership of their general Themistocles, retreating to the nearby island of Salamis. Themistocles was no ordinary commander. He was a master strategist and understood that the Greeks' only hope lay in their navy. The Persian navy, despite its size, was not invincible. Themistocles believed that the narrow waters around Salamis would neutralize the Persian numerical advantage and give the Greek fleet a fighting chance. But it wasn't easy to convince everyone. The Greek fleet consisted of ships from several city-states, and their commanders were divided on the best course of action. Some wanted to retreat to the Peloponnese and fight closer to home, while others argued for an immediate confrontation with the Persians. Themistocles knew that a retreat would spell disaster. He cleverly used a mix of persuasion, manipulation, and deceit to keep the fleet united and ready for battle. He even sent a secret message to Xerxes, falsely claiming that the Greeks were planning to flee, goading the Persian king into attacking them in the narrow waters of Salamis. The battle begins. At dawn on a late September day in 480 BCE, the Persian fleet moved into position. The waters around Salamis were calm, but tension filled the air. The Persian navy was a vast armada, with ships from all corners of Xerxes' empire, Phoenicians, Egyptians, Cypriots, and Ionians, all fighting under the banner of the Persian king. In total, the Persian fleet was estimated to consist of over 1,200 ships, while the Greek fleet numbered only about 370 triremes. The odds seemed impossible. As the Persians advanced, their ships were packed into the narrow strait, and their vast numbers quickly became a liability. Themistocles had predicted this. The narrowness of the strait prevented the Persian fleet from spreading out and using its numerical superiority to surround the Greeks. Instead, the Persians were forced into a confined space where maneuvering became difficult. The Greek triremes, smaller and more agile than the larger Persian ships, took full advantage of the situation. They rowed swiftly into battle, ramming into Persian vessels with their reinforced prows and using their superior naval tactics to outflank and outmaneuver their larger, slower enemies. Themistocles had also chosen the time of day wisely. The early morning winds that blew through the straits made it harder for the Persians to control their ships, while the Greeks, familiar with the waters, navigated them with ease. The battle quickly turned into a chaotic melee. Persian ships collided with one another, and the confusion in their ranks grew. The Greeks, fighting with a sense of desperation and determination, pressed their advantage. Athenian ships led the charge, but they were soon joined by the Spartans, Corinthians, and other city-states in a united front. As the day wore on, the Persians, unable to coordinate their vast fleet in the tight waters, began to falter. Xerxes, watching from a throne he had set up on a hillside overlooking the battle, could only look on as his mighty navy was torn apart. His pride and ambition, symbolized by the grand fleet, were sinking in the waters below. The turning tide. One of the key moments in the battle came when Artemisia, the queen of Halicarnassus and one of Xerxes' naval commanders, found herself trapped between two Greek ships. In a desperate attempt to escape, she rammed one of her own Persian allies' ships, sinking it. The Greeks, mistaking her for one of their own, allowed her to flee. Xerxes, observing from his vantage point, reportedly praised her cunning, not realizing that she had attacked her own fleet in her effort to survive. As the day wore on, the Greek strategy continued to pay off. The Persians, exhausted and unable to regroup, began to retreat. Themistocles ordered his fleet to press the attack, chasing down the fleeing Persian ships and sinking as many as possible. By the end of the day, the waters of Salamis were filled with wreckage and the bodies of fallen sailors. The Persian navy, once the pride of Xerxes' empire, was in shambles. Aftermath and consequences. The Battle of Salamis was a decisive victory for the Greeks. Although the Persian Empire would continue to fight for another year, the loss of their navy at Salamis crippled their ability to supply their massive land army. forcing Xerxes to retreat back to Asia with much of his force. The remnants of the Persian army, left behind in Greece, would be defeated the following year at the Battle of Plataea, marking the end of the Persian invasion.